The wind has shifted possibly again on Shohei Ohtani already. It's just been a few hours overnight with the Cubs and their potential pursuit of the Japanese superstar. We're going to get into that. And also, where could Christopher Morell land? Some of that news has started to spike a little during the winter meetings. I'm Chad Anderson. Mick Gillispie joining us here in just a second. Welcome to the Chicago Cubs baseball channel. All right, I'm Chad Anderson. That is Mick Gillispie. He is still hanging out at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel and Convention Center, about 15 minutes to the east of downtown Nashville. We're both going to be with you throughout Wednesday. All kinds of news going to be breaking, I'm sure, as these meetings continue to roll on this week here in the Southeast. But Mick, we were just talking about on another video that the Cubs were not optimistic anymore. They were waning on Shohei Ohtani. Things weren't looking good. You're all of a sudden hearing differently.
Yeah, a couple things. First off, I saw a graphic that was put out that's kind of had, who was in this mix, right? Like a pie chart. And it was the Dodgers, and then it was the Cubs, and it was Toronto, right? And then the Giants and the Braves and, a couple other teams that maybe had a possibility. But There's been a lot of news here that made you think that maybe the Cubs were out of this. Bob Nightingale, from reports, heard some stern words from Jed Hoyer, the Cubs president, and it's probably like, hey, dude, we're still in this. Matty Lee from the Sun-Times also heard from Hoyer that, nothing's changed as far as the Cubs' pursuit of the Japanese Babe Ruth. So they're still in this. And the entire world here in Nashville and of Major League Baseball, and honestly, in the world of baseball, I mean, he's the most popular name in all of baseball. Yeah. We're all waiting to find out where he ends up. And I just don't know. And none of us know. But we're not going to have a lot of movement until we figure out exactly where he's going to go. It's just good to know that the Cubs are still in this.
So, Mick, in this kind of a situation, how does this impact, if any, the Cubs negotiations to whatever extent they are or have been with Ohtani and his camp? Because just because one reporter comes out and says something, does that really impact? Like, I know it may be frustrating for Hoyer because the Cubs have such high expectations after the council hire, and the fans are expecting a really big offseason and solidifying a roster for 2024. But does that have any impact, or is it just bad vibes and juju?
The funny thing is I've talked to a lot of the reporters that cover Major League Baseball and go in clubhouses every single day. And those guys are so like anti-Ohtani because he doesn't speak to the media unless after he pitches, which they're wondering if he doesn't pitch next year, which he's not going to, is he ever going to talk to the media, right? And I think one of the values to Ohtani being with the Cubs is what he can do to help their network, right? What he can do to help build marquee, which a lot of us feel like has underperformed. You add a marquee name like that, and all of a sudden, maybe those televisions that don't have Ohtani on their cable network, they want it, right? That's part of the value. Is he going to go out and do a show? Is he going to be involved in that? I don't know. But the type of dollars that we're talking about right now is money that we've never seen before. I mean, we've never seen this kind of a contract being offered. We're talking about $500 or $600 million, right? So I guess the question that we have is, first off, is this really looking like it's just the Dodgers, or is it Toronto? And then the second thing is, if it is the Cubs, when does this wrap up?
Wow. Well, another piece that the Cubs have been linked to today, yesterday, we talked about Rhys Hoskins with the Chicago Cubs. Yeah. That was a possibility. They've discussed reports are 1 year or multiple year type deal. And then also Christopher Morell. This is a piece that every Cub fan is expecting to be traded in this offseason or sent somewhere for a big return. What can you tell us about that and those developments?
Well, look, Reese Hoskins on a one-year deal might not be a bad idea. The thing that the Cubs have to be really careful of is blocking some of the young talent that they have. And that's something that we've talked about a lot on the Cubs baseball channel. If these guys are going to take advantage of this farm system, which is stocked right now, they have to have spots open. And you're talking about no corner outfield spots. You're talking about a middle infield that's taken care of. I don't think the Cubs have the next catching prospect. And that means that you're going with Yan Gomes and obviously Miguel Amaya behind the plate, right? Yeah. You got the corner infield. Well, third base, maybe it's Matt Shaw, maybe it's B.J. Murray, maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's kind of a wild card like Jake Slaughter. I don't know, but the Cubs have infield guys. They have some outfield guys. Center field, I talked about it. You got Mike Topman that maybe helps get Pete Crow Armstrong ready for that opportunity to be the Cubs' everyday center fielder, or Alexander Canario, or someone else. You've just got so much talent there. First base with Hoskins could be a good fit on a one-year deal because you can figure out if Matt Mervis is the guy that eventually could take that job, and if he's not, then maybe you sign Hoskins to a longer contract, or you go out and make another. You find somebody else for that job, right? So I'm guessing that is a possibility, and we saw it last year with Cody Bellinger, where he came in for 1 year and he was just tremendous, right? He absolutely lived up to that contract. You don't want to be you had to make the trade for Nelson Velasquez, who's a right fielder, because Seiya Suzuki's the guy that you signed to be the long-term right fielder.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that too much where you're not able to take care of the prospects that you have in your system. Now, the other thing, we talked about this earlier, is starting pitching is an issue for the Cubs. And I think that that's eventually where they need to spend some of their money on. And that kind of leads us to the next thing you're going to ask me, I'm sure. But Hoskins is a one-year deal, I think, would be a good fit for the Cubs.
What's so interesting about Hoskins is he may not even be pushed out of Philadelphia if it wasn't for Bryce Harper and his injury and his move to first base, and what kind of solidified that position for him and opened up the door for Philly to go look at other opportunities and other pieces to plug into their roster. All right. We've talked about a few different people and on the phone and through text and whatnot. Christopher Morell, there are rumors. We've linked him pretty much everywhere. You could throw a rock and find a place that Christopher Morell has been linked to at some point in this offseason. But all of a sudden, it looks like he's a possible trade piece or bait in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, right. Well, we heard that maybe for Pete Alonso, he would be a great fit. Christopher Morell, 26 home runs, obviously has to figure out the position to play on the field, but he's got the power, had, the clutch hit. Remember the walk-off home run against the White Sox. I mean, there's a lot of things that he can do. He's also a really young guy, so there's a potential for him to go out and figure out a spot. But right now he doesn't have a position on the diamond, especially if it's second base, because Nico Horner just won a Gold Glove. He's not moving out of that spot.
Right.
I heard today that for Tyler Glasnow, it might not take you, because of the $25 that you're inheriting on the contract, it might only be one player, or maybe one player like him off your big league roster, and then maybe a marginal minor league pitcher to get this deal done. And I think that's one of those things where you start to hear that. And if I'm the Cubs, I'm as much as I like what he can do and his potential, I'd feel comfortable making that trade, because you don't have a position on the field for him. And obviously with Shohei Ohtani out there, that does factor into this. But the Cubs have to replace Marcus Stroman. They're missing a spot in the rotation. They lost an all-star last year. So if you have to give up Morell, even if it is a one-year rental, I don't necessarily feel like Christopher Morell wouldn't be the right piece to make that trade. And the other thing is, and I've talked about this too, Tampa Bay is they're really slick when it comes to making trades. When they make deals, you got to be careful. So, but there's other teams that are after him. I've heard the Cincinnati Reds are included in that group. They have some prospects to give up as well. They actually have more pitching in their system, starting pitching, than the Cubs, but would they be willing to give that up? They're looking for somebody to come into that rotation and help lead the Hunter Greens and the Nick Lodolos and, kind of be the bulldog. Is he that guy? I don't know if he is. But I know for where the Cubs are right now, there is a part of you that worries about the fact that the guy's been hurt so much and that he hasn't been able to pitch 21 starts, 120 innings or whatever it is on a consistent basis. Although he did it last year, he's had a lot of injuries.
All right, Mick Gillispie at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel and Convention Center with the winter meetings. We're going to have coverage all week long here on the Cubs baseball channel. Mick, one thing you've got to promise us, though.
What's that?
If the Cubs get back in, maybe they were never out, but if they get back in and they ink Ohtani this week, there's a stage and a microphone and probably some Go Cubs Go that we could use some karaoke from you this week, okay?
We'll do it, baby. I'll sing Go Cubs Go on here in my best Japanese.
Sounds good, buddy. All right, he's Mick Gillispie. I'm Chad Anderson. As always, the Cubs baseball channel brought to you by our friends at the Tennessee Smokies, who ended a 45-year drought when they claimed the Southern League championship just this past season. And this channel and this week is brought to you by them. Check out the team store. It's Christmas time. A lot of great opportunity, deals. Don't be that guy. Have a cool jersey, sweatshirt, hoodie, cap, something. Hook yourselves up. Tennessee Smokies. Mick, we'll talk to you later today.
Let's do it. Go Cubs.